are watching and listening to the Satellite Trampoline 3 podcast with your hosts, Rich Clinton, Thom Tessandori, and Andy Makin. Join us as we discuss anything but politics.
Save me. I don't think I can save myself.
Our lady's telling us we're recording in progress. And so I guess we should start.
Lady.
Yeah, thank you, Robot Lady. We like you. This is the Satellite Trampoline 3 podcast. And today we are hopefully going to be talking about not only the best or worst jobs we've had to keep us in the manner that we wish to be, i.e. still musicians, but also war stories. And by that, I don't mean strapping on a helmet and M16. I mean road stories, gig stories, the nonsense and hilarity that does happen when you just happen to be a musician with a load of other guys in a van, that kind of thing. But let's start, if I may, with the job thing. Best or worst jobs you've done that have enabled you to continue as a musician. I'll start this off if you like. I got a couple. Let me see. I did jot a couple of things down. Yeah, when I was a teenager, they had a thing over here that you could go for youth training, right? Which sounds like some sort of camp somewhere, but is you could in order to get your dole money or your welfare, I suppose you would call it, you could go off and be trained to do stuff as well. And there weren't that many options, but one of the options was for me was working in a library. And so I ended up working in a library, which I actually really, really enjoyed because, of course, I was just surrounded by books, but also they had the CD and the audio department as well. And whilst the selection wasn't exactly pertinent to what I was listening to at the time, it did open my mind to other things, you know. And I think the most modern stuff they had was the Best of the Police and Clannad. Do any of you guys remember Clannad?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where Inya's family came from.
That's it, exactly, yeah. Well, they were popular because they did the theme tune to a Robin Hood TV show over here, which was, I loved it as a kid. It was brilliant, but I mean, I would imagine looking back on it now, it's probably pretty awful, but they did the music for it and it was just ethereal and beautiful. So anyway, I was thrust immediately onto the front counter of the library, and when they realized I just wasn't any good at doing anything to do with tills or anything, because you had to, like, you know, refund people for things, and I was just dreadful at it. I was 16, 17. So they shoved me down to bibliography, which was where we were the main library department. So we had a book for the main department, and then a copy of that book for the separate libraries, and you'd send those out. And then all the old books then would get sold if they weren't used, or they were getting knackered and tired. So they'd sell them off, and I'd have the job of stamping one book, stamping another book, and that I would do that all day. But it would be stamp the book, find a nice book goes in my bag, stamp another book. I was just stealing books that were going to be sold for like 20p anyway. So right. I vastly increased my reading over that brief time I was there. And then one day, there's a huge room to the side of bibliography, which had all these massive shelves from floor to ceiling. This is a real big industrial room. And it was just full of old books. And these, even though the room was supposed to be damp-proof, it wasn't. And it got into the shelves that were these metal shelves, and they collapsed and they domino affected. And I was the guy who had to tidy it all up and fix the shelves. And it took me about 4 weeks to take everything apart, sort the books out, and then they ordered these new shelves, and I had to build them, which sounds awful, but it meant all I had to do every day was go to this place, and I could take the ghetto blaster with me, and I could put a CD in, and I could listen to music and just build shelves and stack books. And there was a really chill, it was just such a chill job. I loved it. But the only thing I did have was the Police and Clannad, and that was all I could listen to because I didn't have anything else in the selection that was just worthy of, you know, getting out of my own space and being able to do this job. So I really got into the Police, and I've never listened to Clannad again, even though they're, you know, it's great and all that. I just can't do it. It's like it just sticks me back to this bunker in Haverford West building shelves. So that was the first time I had a job where, and I was gigging as well. So it was the day job that allowed me to sort of keep myself in SM58s and mic stands, I suppose, at the time, and fuel money and all the nonsense, you know. But I was working, and it was, what would it have been? 1989, I think. So I've been 17. Yeah. And I was on £28 a week.
Jeez.
And I was rich. So that's my first one. What have you guys got?
You want to go, Tom, or I'll go?
I'm a serial monogamous.
Oh.
I'm a serial monogamist when it comes to jobs. Like, I think the shortest job I've worked has been like 2 years. So to keep myself on the road, I worked at a service station for a long time. And I was just kind of racking my brain. Rich, do you remember any funny stories from? I mean, I have a couple that kind of come up. We had a homeless guy that lived behind the service station, and this is before it. Well, I live in Portland, so there's like a bunch of homeless people here. Before it sort of became normalized or whatever, and we called him Stinky because we didn't know any better. And he just had mental health issues, but he would just come out of the back and use the restroom and come out and just kind of wave, kind of like Pete, kind of like meeting Pete in the car, but a little stinkier, And many things happened. Many things. I mean, I worked graveyard for a long time, and graveyard is at that particular place. I think it was 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. in a college town, and that's just. I mean, I saw all kinds of stuff. I don't really. Most of it's not appropriate. Here's actually a really good one. This was early on, so I had actually. My kids kind of give me grief for this, but I had lied on my application to work at a service station because I was super into cars. I loved cars, working on cars, anything. And part of the benefit of working there was you could use the service bays. So that's kind of where we met Bruce Olson and a couple other guys that were super, whatever into cars. And I was like 15, and I was like had a till and was responsible for it. And then at that time I worked swing shift. So that was right after school. I would get my car, drive down there, work from basically, 3 to 10 o'clock at night. And across the street, when I first worked there, was a porn store. And the porn store was right across the street from on that side of the street from a German delicatessen. Well, the German delicatessen was a super Christian family, and they came over and they had their cars worked on at the service station, all that kind of thing. And they had posted a sign, and the sign that said, "After 7 o'clock, there'll be no parking here." And so what would happen is I just was there super bored, and they gave me the phone number to the tow truck company. So when guys would go into the porn store, they would park across the street. I would call the tow truck company. They would come over, put the guy's, person's car up on the lift. And if they got it up on the lift, they had to pay him $40 cash, which means that guy would drive over to the gas station and give me $20. And there was always this threat of somebody coming out and kicking my ass because I'm a little guy that was doing this.
Tim!
If he got it on the rack and moved away from the parking stall, I got $40 cash. And he would flip a bitch on Broadway, pop into the gas station, and hand me two $20 bills. And I felt like that was like the bomb. Now, in reality, looking back at it, it probably only was $40 a couple times. But it felt really good looking, sort of being on watch and all that kind of stuff. And when you're 16, 40 bucks.
Park, do it.
Yeah.
In sick anticipation, yes. I mean, and for somebody who had...
but $20 is $20, right?
Right.
That story could have gone in a completely different direction.
Oh, yeah. What'd you do for 40? Hey, I parked his car, okay? Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
There was no gardening going on.
Uphill or otherwise, huh?
No ascending
Indeed.
horticulture.
Oh,
Oh, man.
My
Rich, what about
turn.
you, man? Yeah, man.
Lots of. I have two, and one does involves me by proxy, and the other is an actual. Okay, so when I started in music in California when I was a teenager, I would kind of take whatever. And the thing was back then, everybody had long hair, and they wouldn't hire you with long hair. They would, there would be a prerequisite that you'd have to cut your hair, and it's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. So I worked a lot of just whatever jobs, like fast food and stuff like that, just to get by. But everybody else that was in the band that I was in found a place that was called Super Baby Discount. And it was a store for baby selling baby clothes, and they would hire the rocker guys with long hair. So I just found that
Wow.
you could drive by it, and it's this big store, and you can see all these guys in there that look like they're in Poison. It was
Nice.
the craziest. There was like the only. We're talking about a city of it was slightly under 1 million people at the time. But, I always thought that was fascinating because it was so hard to find a job. You couldn't have earrings. You couldn't have long hair. You couldn't have facial hair a lot of the times.
Under the premise that it was sort of antisocial and scary, and yet you
Yeah.
could get employed in a baby shop.
Right. Because the baby shop.
Fantastic.
Yeah. The baby
Brilliant.
shop didn't care. I am going to move my microphone because it's starting to fall. And tell me if it messes with my. So in my world, it's kind of due to my Uncle Gary. He, when I was a kid, drove an ice cream truck. Or as you may say, an ice cream lorry.
No, it'd be ice cream van. They have vans over
Van,
here.
okay,
Van
yeah.
over here, yeah.
Okay. So, and he was like the hero of the neighborhood. I'm a 7-year-old kid, and my uncle was an ice cream man. So he would drive by, and he would give us ice cream and candy, and
Power.
he could have been Superman. It would have made no difference. It's like Superman, yeah, whatever. He gives us free candy. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, he Gary was kind of a free spirit, and that was his way of getting by and to do whatever he wanted to do, which was writing and poetry and writing science fiction and everything else. So later on, when he came down to live with us, he had moved to Oregon and he came back down to California. He mentioned this whole ice cream thing, and that you could go in. So how it worked was you would go in and you would lease the truck for a day. So you're not even employed. You're just basically a self-employed person that's leasing a truck, and you can just go out there. You bought your product from them, and you went out and you sold and you came back. So that was nice because it was piecework. It's like you do it as much as you need to, and then you just go off and play music again.
Yeah.
Later on, when I moved to Oregon, we had bought a van. This is before Tom was in the band. Early Henry's Child. We'd won a Battle of the Bands. We got $500, and we bought a band van.
Sweet.
It was an old ambulance, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, it was geared really, really low, and so it wasn't really meant for long distance highway speed. We turned it into an ice cream truck. And somewhere along the line, I have a picture of it. It's Henry's Ice Cream, and
Nice.
Andy Smith's wife at the time, or girlfriend at the time, who became his wife, Dawn, was a graphic artist, and she'd painted this crazy stuff on it, all Henry's Ice Cream, and yeah, so that's how we got by. And then I remember he had a job kind of on the side of buffing big marathon coach motorhomes. Buffing the stainless steel on the side.
Yeah.
So it was all this, it's basically piecework. But the ice cream thing was great because we could go out, we could make $100,
Nice.
and then
any afternoon you were free.
Then you're free.
Yeah.
And then and it's cash. It's just you get to interact with kids and parents, and and everybody gets to know you, and it's like, and of course we were already a band. They knew us, so they knew us from the band. But
That's kind of cool. I like
thing,
that. Yeah, I like that. And also, this must have been like before. Which Smashing Pumpkins was it? Siamese Dream, when they're in the ice cream van.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Today is the greatest.
Yeah. So I just had that sort of vision of them, but and also the connection with the band. Then, you'd see you in the community and connect you with the band whilst you're selling ice creams. It's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, I don't think it was that cool, but Some of the stories from that
Tom.
ice cream, some of the stories from that ice cream van are epic. Like we still have references today, but probably 34, 33 years later, about like kids that would come out with not enough money. And just the sheer abuse. And the sheer abuse happens before you're vegan, and there's a like a cooler of just like Choco Tacos in there, and you're like, oh dude, I'll just grab one while I go inside and sit with Art and watch basketball.
Yeah, I'll just grab another one of those whilst I'm grabbing the other one. So
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I know that because I was there. We go out to Gary's van and it'd be, I can have one of these. You can have many of these.
We would raid it. We would raid Gary's van. I remember
There's nothing left.
Doesn't help that I was living in the van next to it.
It didn't matter. Yeah, there is that. And also, I saw you on your graveyard shift because we used to come down and spend time with you.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we did. Me and Richard come down. It'd be like 2 a.m. or something after we'd hung out. Let's go see Tom.
And of course, my dad later on had a landscaping business, and so I could work with him off and on. So, and it wasn't until we were trying to move the band to California, and Tom was gone. And me and Roger went down to try to make a go of it because we were going to move the whole band down there, as you know. And it just didn't work. And I came back, and that's when I really got my feet into a career, because it was that really weird flux time. It's like, here I am. I have a couple of paths, and I don't know which way to go. I've already spent a good portion of my young years, pushing this music thing. It's like, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it's funny because, do you know who Mark Maron is? He's a comedian who also has a podcast that's been on since 2016.
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah, he makes a similar kind of path choice because he's a comedian, and he got to the point, it's like, I have to make this work because I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
Because I've burned all that time, and I can't go back and get that back now. So I need to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah.
I
mean, I after excuse me, after my dad died, so 07, I'd been in various little jobs here and there. No, it was before that. No, it wasn't. It was after that. Yes, it was after that. Excuse my scattered brain. I had gone from, I was stacking shelves in, it's a chemist over at a pharmacy called Boots, which is this thing that's been around forever. So I'd go in, I'd be in for, what was I in for? 5:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock, or no, 4:30 or 5:30, depending on the delivery. And then I'd be out by 8 o'clock, and we'd stack the shelves.
Yeah.
And then from there, I ended up through an old band. One of the guitar players in my old band from years and years ago when I was a kid, his family business was an undertaker, funeral director. So I had been laboring. I'd been doing this stacking shelf thing as well. And then the laboring job had stopped. I'd just met Jess at the time. And I had no band. I was still sort of in flux from, this is 20 odd years ago. I was still in flux from leaving Henry's Child and what happens now. And I'd had a few bits and bobs of work music wise, but not a lot. And so it was literally just trying to find jobs. And as you said, completely like, I'm only good at this. So I was like fairly unemployable. So anything that I did find was either service industry or laboring and that kind of stuff. And then my friend says to me, well, look, come with me and you can start collecting bodies. And I'll give you some cash in hand to do that. And I was, I can do that. I'll have a go. I'll have a go. So he said, right, well, expect a call. Okay. Have you got a black tie and a... Yeah. Okay, right. So 2 days later, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a phone call, and it's my mate Rob, and he says, right, got a call. Get ready. I'll pick you up 5 minutes outside the house. Okay. And so we go and collect this body. This gentleman had died at home. And as we drove up to the house, Rob said to me, right, if you feel it's all funny, if it feels a bit weird for you, just nod to me, walk outside, go and sit in the car. It's not for everyone. It's no reflection on you. It just means you can't do it. But if you can, fine, we'll carry it. And I could, and we collected the body. And I remember him saying, as we shut the door and we were driving away, he said, "Right, well, you can do it." He said, "I bet you lose count how many we do by the end of the week."
Wow.
And I did. We were just swamped. It was
Are you serious?
ridiculous. Yeah. I'd forgotten because it just becomes a blur. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, another phone call. Someone's died in old folks' home, and off you go and collect them. So it was a very peculiar job because unless you're brought up in it as a family business, or you've gone through university and got the degrees and stuff to be a funeral director, if you're just put in it situationally, like I was, having to adjust your brain to it, whilst I did, the surreality of it was still odd, So you'd see families at their worst time,
Yeah.
and also the best of people, whether it's community or neighbours or just people coping through a time. But you also get, and when I say surreal, I mean just. So we buried Santa. There was a guy who, I came in the morning, and I used to dress the bodies as well. I used to collect the bodies, dress them, do all the funerals, that sort of stuff, and build coffins and things as well, and just generally help out. And I came in the morning, and one of the guys said to me, "Oh, there's a chap to be dressed. It's an open coffin." I went, "Yeah, okay." And they didn't tell me anything else. I walked in, and it was the guy was in his hospital stuff, and there was a suit bag next to him, and it was a big old fat bloke with big white beard. And I remember going, "Huh, looks like Santa." And then I opened the bag, and it was Santa's outfit. And like not like
God.
and not
Dude.
not like a shit Uncle Larry's fucking dusted off his Santa costume. I mean one that was made. Like it looked authentic. I mean, like authentic. It wasn't like bright red. It was kind of like almost burgundy, and the fur on it was real fur. And, it wasn't like a Velcro suit and off we go and scare the kids. It was, and sit on my knee, little lad. It wasn't that. It was like authentically old. And the boots were leather and all.
Professional Santa.
Professional Santa. But like, apparently he'd always been a Santa. I dressed him, and he looked, I mean, it was the most ridiculous, surreal thing. But yeah, the family came to see him in that because that was what he loved. He loved being was Santa.
Yeah.
So, and I like to think he looked his best. Well, not obviously his best, but, better than expected. Put it that way, But yeah, things like that. The trouble is with a job like that, and this is going to sound crass, and it's not meant to. It's just, when you're in school and you're not supposed to laugh, because if you do, there's going to be shit. There's going to be trouble. And there's that infectiousness to it. There's that, you can't help it. It's like this wind that goes through and you start smiling, and then you're eating the side of your face to not laugh. There were times when that happened and there's nothing you can do.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's one story I can't mention, which I can off camera, but I can't mention. But there was a time where the family had come around and they wanted to put little votive offerings into the coffin for their aunt who died. So there were dried flowers or a necklace that she wore, things like that, And this little girl came in and she'd won a little thing at the fair, which was this little glass ornament that lit up. And that's all we thought it did. So, yes, of course.
Oh, I see where this is going.
So we put that in the coffin, and the lady was in the chapel of rest for a few days before the funeral. And then the funeral came, and we were in the hearse, and off we went to the church, the chapel actually, and took her out the hearse, and we're carrying her down the aisle. When suddenly we can hear this, well, it was a bad batteried version of "I'm all shook up." It was going as we're carrying it down, and people looking at their phones and things as if it's that, and looking at daggers at each other. And it was the coffin going off as we're going. And I'm eating my face, and I'm not looking at anybody else, because if I look at somebody else and they go, that'll be it, that will be it. So,
oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, literally, like someone's going to get their ass kicked for this, and it's not
Right.
going to be me.
Right.
I'm just going,
The little girl.
yeah, let's kick her ass. I mean, yeah, it was one of the most surreal gigs I've ever had, and that was just to pay the bills. I only lasted about a year. I got fired in the end because I didn't really know what I was doing, and it all ended rather badly. But at the time. Just the beauty of it was seeing people at their worst and yet at their best.
Sure.
And having gone through that myself, and you know what it's like, and it's an awful experience. But it's also going to over here, if there's if someone's just died but there's not any clear reason why, the police come immediately. It's called a sudden death. I'm sure it's the same in your country. And there'd be we went on murders and all sorts of things, and nasty accidents and suicides and things. But you'd obviously have the youngest coppers, the youngest police officers were sent to these because it was the bread and butter of stuff that regular police officers had done, and so you get a seasoned copper, and then you get a green guy, and you'd turn up, and inevitably they'd be there before you, and you could tell he'd been sick. He'd already barfed into his helmet or around the corner somewhere, and so that was quite pleasurable seeing these guys just like, what's in there? Come do it, But yeah, so that was a pretty good one, I must admit. Yeah, but the worst job I've ever had, I was helping out a friend of mine. This is a music job, and I played guitar as a deaf musician, stand-in musician for a guitar player in a tribute act for about 7 gigs last year, and a couple, not this year, last year, and that almost killed me, man. That almost killed me. That was just, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
We would play like theaters and stuff. It was, nice venues, and the money was great. It's completely fucking soulless, and you're selling a lie to people. It was, my little baby musician soul was dying inside as I was playing with a band who thought they were really, really good as well, and as a tribute act, I guess they were, but to the audience, all the stuff was on click, backing tracks, keyboards were backing tracks. It's I don't know. I think not only do I not want to know how the sausage is made, I don't want to lie to people how it's made either. And that was probably one of the worst jobs I've ever had. Yeah, I
think that's probably. In fact, I think we should check mark that as a topic to go back on as far as tribute bands and cover bands and things like that, because I think that has informed all of us in some form or fashion. I know I have strong opinions about it. They're my only opinion.
It's an interesting paradox, because technically you could make a living playing music. It's somebody else's music. It's you could technically wear other people's underwear. I don't have an end to that.
All right, that was just a hey guys, technically we can wear other people's underwear.
Can we?
That is true. True. Only at the gas station.
How come I'm only learning about this? I'll be right back. No.
Yeah. So, unless you want to, if you've got any other jobs, we could go on to war stories.
I think war stories, because jobs. I've had so many jobs, and most of them were just exactly like you said. They're labor, or and I had a couple that I liked and that I would have stuck out longer. But having flexibility and somebody to understand, that what you do is serious. You're not just fucking off. You're not just playing. you're trying to make a career out of something that's really, really hard to make a career out of in any form or fashion. We kind of live in a golden age now. I mean, people can dig money out of nothing,
Quite literally.
Quite, yeah, with the whole influencers and everything else. It's like, Jesus Christ, you're sitting here you're talking about how to put makeup on this 20-year-old girl someplace, and you have 1.5 million followers, and that kind of crazy stuff. Who would ever thought that would exist?
At the same time, there's sort of is the perfection in sort of the Buddhist everything is nothing, right? So the whole reason that we were in San Francisco in the first place was so that we could bring Andy back. And the weird dichotomy with the whole thing was it was immigration. We hired an immigration attorney and in my opinion, were punished for doing the right thing.
Fucking right.
Like, I remember writing that check to whatever, Hatch and Hatch LLC in Eugene. And I'm just like, you're kidding me. Like, we spent all this money and Andy's not here. Like, what's happening right now? So we moved to San Francisco and I just met the right person in the right place. And that's how I fell into tech. I had no special training. I paid attention. I have a really, really good focus muscle. And I grew up in the regurgitation system, which is what our kids are still in. If you just say the right things, you get the right reward, kind of a thing. And it was weird because that's where Bill was from. And we were still being courted by Bill. Get a bus. You need a bus. And there's 1,000 other stories that we could share, because remember the meeting of Natalie and Bill. Yeah, we were trying to get them together. Bill Williams, I don't know if I can say that on here. Bill is a Facebook friend. We still talk. Mm-hmm. He seems to think we're too alike in our personalities to work together. And I don't know if that's
sorry.
I don't know if that's
so sorry. What a steaming pile of wank. For fuck's sake. Look.
Okay, so that's kind of what I thought. But
at the end of the day, Bill, you have a personnel change in the thing that he's interested in, a directional change in the thing that he's already expressed interest in. Mm. It's a fundamental change to the band, right? And yet pays no attention whatsoever to that, right? At all. Just continues as if nothing's happened and you've got to get a bus. It's like, wow.
Yep, that's what we were up against.
That, my friend, is worth my 25%. Fuck me.
I mean, and
lovely guy.
Great guy. But talk about how your sphere of influence is so influential. Like, it's so important. Like what you surround yourself with is what you become, like in a weird kind of way. And so, like stepping away from that. I mean, I was really talking more about the blessing of falling into tech, getting a little more in with those friends. We had friends that moved from Eugene down to San Jose and did really good. And we're kind of in the first tech, boom or whatever, but.
You have been watching and listening to the Satellite Trampoline 3 podcast. Thank you for your company. Catch us next time.